Hi, this is Mr. Lam, your D&T teacher using AI voice. In this video, you will learn how to ideate for products using the technique of randomness. Please remember to hit like and subscribe for more of my videos related to design. Also, forward this link to your friends who may find this useful. This technique will be used to generate ideas for the wooden stand design of your Secondary 1 D&T clock project. So how do we do it? First, we must understand this technique and how it can help you to be creative. That brings us to the question, how do we define creativity? Look at snowflakes, which is a product of nature. If you zoom into each individual snowflake under the microscope, you will see that there is natural creativity displayed. What's so special about the shapes of the snowflakes? That's right. Snowflakes are creative displays of nature, simply because each snowflake shade is unique, just like your fingerprints. So, one way to be creative is to be different from others. This is especially so in order to survive in the business world, because you want your product to be, as we Singaporeans like to say, same, but different from others. That brings us to the next question, so how to be different? To answer that, let's use the illustration of clouds. Can you see that these cloud formations remind us of certain objects? So how are these clouds formed? Yes, they are formed by chance. It is entirely random that the cloud formation happens to look like a familiar object. At this point, I would like to point out that by chance or random doesn't mean anyhow. It must still obey certain limits, rules, or boundaries. For example, a dice can only produce a random number between 1 to 6, simply because it has only 6 sides. With that understanding, let's proceed to design for the wooden stand using 2 sets of random rules. First, you will receive a template of 8 shapes as shown. Use it as an underlay to trace over lightly on a fresh sheet of layout paper. Remember to have the habit to write your class, name, and register number at the top right corner of the layout paper. Now, follow this randomness rule of using 4 straight lines to cut across each shape. These lines must intersect within each shade at more than one point. The more intersections you have, the more interesting will be your design. Then, you form and darken a random path starting from one flat end. The path must reach the other flat end, do a U-turn, and go back to the starting flat end. This path must eventually trace an outline with an enclosed area, like the examples shown. The area represents the pattern you will cut out from a rectangular piece of wood to form your stand. As the wood functions as a stand, that is the reason why you must keep both ends flat, so that the wood can stand. I will now show you a video to demonstrate how each design is done. After you complete 8 different designs using the first rule, take a new layout paper to trace over the template again and follow the second rule for another 8 designs. This time, use 2 straight lines and 2 circles, one large, one small, to intersect. So, you must have minimum 16 designs in total. If time permits, take a third or even fourth new piece of layout paper to do even more designs. For designs 17 onwards, you are free to set your own rules. Take note that the more lines and circles you use, the more complex will be your design. So when do we stop sketching ideas? I often hear this question from students, Chia, you want how many sketches or? The answer is, as many as you have time for. As Professor Linus Pauling says, the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. With this belief towards creativity, He became the only person so far in history to be awarded 2 individual or non-team Nobel Prizes, the highest honor that a scientist can have. Similarly, generate as many ideas as you can until we proceed as a class to the next design task, which is to shortlist 3 designs or patterns out of as many as you generated and mirror them using the GPO method to form the stand design. What is GPO? It is the acronym for Guideline, Proportion, and Outline. For this design task, you will receive this template. Note that the vertical line in the middle of each shape is the mirror line or line of symmetry for that shape. Take a fresh layout paper and trace over the template carefully. Ensure that the mirror line is exactly at the middle. How to apply the GPO method? I have just covered the first 2 steps. At the 3rd step, use each shortlisted design as the underlay to trace over half of the shape. You only need to trace the outline of each shortlisted design in half the shape. For the other half of the design you are mirroring at step 4, you must first lightly sketch guidelines at each turning point of the design. As shown in step 5, along each guideline, sketch proportion lines to mark the extent the turning point is mirrored. Finally, at step 6, darken the whole outline. Repeat for the other 2 shortlisted designs. Once you complete the 3 mirrored designs, your page will look like this. Take note that as a requirement for our practical work, you need to ensure there is an internal cut in each mirrored design. Add the internal cuts if they are not in the original selected designs. Finally, choose the design you want to make from these 3 mirrored designs. To complete the design process for the wooden stand, you need to create a card mockup. You can easily create this mockup by folding the given Vanguard sheet card into half and placing the folded card to the chosen design of the 3 mirrored designs page. Apply the GPO technique to the card just like you have done in the previous task to do mirroring. Once the design is traced over to the card, keep the card folded and cut out the unwanted areas using a pair of scissors. By cutting the card folded, when you unfold it, the design on the card will turn out to be mirrored. After completing the card mockup, use it as a stencil to transfer your design to the wooden workpiece with pencil by following these steps shown. Other than using the mockup as a stencil to transfer your design to the workpiece, there are other reasons to creating mockups in our design process. Watch this YouTube video to 1 minute 47 seconds to find out why. The link is given below in the description.
Lastly, please ensure you complete your assignment by the deadline given in the SLS assignment. Enjoy designing. See you next time.